Cardano, will it hold? Before we get into the video, go ahead and like, really appreciate it. Helps share these videos out, of course. Subscribe if you like this type of content, more crypto news and analysis. Today we are going to be talking about Cardano and whether or not it's going to hold the line or what we could expect in the near term and then later on in the long term of Cardano's lifespan. And again, it all depends on what Bitcoin's doing. So let's get into the charts. Before we look at Cardano, I do want to look at Bitcoin because I do think it's important to get this perspective to understand exactly what Cardano is fighting against. You see that we're still in this support area of around 42,000. And of course, if we breach this line, it is pretty bearish for Bitcoin. Now, how long we will be down that line, I'm not quite sure. It could be very quick capitulation, then back out, kind of like a bounce. And if it bounces above $52,000, we may be okay. So if Bitcoin does do a motion sort of like this and is able to get out relatively easily, we should be fine. But there is always the possibility of Bitcoin going down here and just being down here for an extended period of time. So both scenarios are realistic. Which one's more probable? I'd probably say right now, my bet is that we don't even breach the 42,000 mark. My bet is that Bitcoin eventually just makes it up and does recover, and I'd be fine with it slowly gaining off of that ground and building up some steam and maybe lengthening this market cycle, which is probably most likely what's going to happen. So with that in context, to know exactly what Cardano is fighting against, and the crypto market cap is under $2 trillion, but it's fighting at the $2 trillion mark. So all of crypto is kind of bleeding. We're negative about $300 billion right now, but Cardano is still holding strong. It's not quite at its all-time high, obviously, but above $2 Cardano is very, very good. So a couple of things to make in point. And now before Cardano usually pumps, and when it does pump, if Bitcoin does capitulate, it does hold a lot of ground because it trades the level. And I know a lot of people don't like the fact that Cardano trades the level, but it does give a healthy amount of support. So when Bitcoin capitulated the first time around, it capitulated around 23%. But you can see here that Cardano has only moved about, I'd say 13 to 12% from here. So we're still kind of holding the line, which is very important. Now, I don't think that $2 is necessarily anything significant. I think it's an emotional barrier. So we could possibly call $2 an emotional line of support. But I don't see any indicators really telling us that that is a major line of support just yet. So I would probably say more alike around the $1.50 mark is our true line of support at this point. And will we dip that low? I'm not sure. We could wick down that far, which we saw that similarly to back here when Bitcoin did capitulate. We saw some pretty nasty wicks for Cardano. So that is always possible. So please expect those dips, but those dips should be for buying. It's very hard to buy Cardano at 202. It was very hard to buy Cardano at $1.19. But if Cardano dips below $2 and then down into the $1.50 range, yeah, that might be a little bit of time to pick up some Cardano. But is it going to hold? I think right now it's a little too early to say because we don't know exactly what's going to happen with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin does breach the massive level of support, $42,000, it's very likely that we could see Cardano capitulate down with Bitcoin. But we do know that in previous capitulations, just like down here, Cardano has been able to make that recovery up. So even if we do go down around the line of support, around here, we could see Cardano still make a move up if it does recover in a healthy way. But at the end of the day, it's just as likely that Bitcoin takes the entire crypto market into a mini bear market, if you would, extending our market cycle. But really, that should just be looked at as a buying opportunity. And I'm not saying that's probably the likelihood. Again, I think the most likely scenario that we're going to see is Bitcoin is going to bounce off the 42, find a new level of support, shoot up, and hopefully achieve the 52,000 mark. But if it doesn't achieve the 52,000 mark in short order, I hope that it's going to be over an extended period of time, because I would way prefer Bitcoin trade sideways and level and let the altcoins kind of build up some steam, because we see Cardano, even though Bitcoin is dumping and even though we're missing $300 billion from the total cryptocurrency market cap, Cardano is still above $2. Like, that alone is very, very impressive. So again, where could Cardano go? Now, this really just depends on where we're going in the market cycle. If the market cycle is extended, we could see a higher Cardano than previously predicted. expected, but it could be a longer period of time that we wait for it. I still think an $8 ADA is in the cards, but it really just depends on what happens with the crypto market. If the market kind of deviates and doesn't allow us to keep moving on this upward trend, it could end up a very bearish indicator for Cardano in the short term and create a downturn until we can finally pick up more steam and re-achieve that. Now, does that mean that we're going to sink below $1, for example? Absolutely not. I think Cardano has a healthy amount of support. So we'd have to see exactly where Cardano would go in a scenario like that. But again, hopefully Bitcoin just eventually recovers here and we all just move on a steady motion and ADA is able to keep this level of support and stay above $2. I think that's the ideal scenario here. As long as we have a Cardano above $2, I think that's the best case. Now, another big thing to keep in mind amongst everything, amongst the charts and everything else with Cardano, we know that there are updates coming, and really an extended downturn wouldn't be the worst thing to happen for the crypto market. You got to keep in perspective that Cardano systems aren't flushed out. As much as we like Cardano, we don't have Cardano DeFi, we don't have these dApps out in the wild yet. They're coming. Everything's coming with the Alonzo update and everything else once the systems are humming for smart contracts. I know it's been a bit of a wait for Cardano, but we do see other systems like Polkadot, like BSC. They're all making these strides to improve their systems, but nothing is complete. Everything is still a work in progress. So really, an extended downturn should just be looked at as a buying opportunity for a lot of people. If you have a dollar cost average, maybe say really high on Bitcoin, say you were buying Bitcoin at 52,000, now would be a good time to load up your bags because Bitcoin's at 42. I wouldn't buy a lot because Bitcoin could, if Bitcoin does break the 42,000, you'd want to hold some fiat just to buy at the lower dips to see where we go from there. But realistically, right now is not a bad time to buy some Bitcoin with a pumped altcoin. But in terms of Cardano, even if we do see an under $2 ADA, I think it's going to be an investment in the future because we know exactly where Cardano is going to go. It's going to have the smart contract platforms. It's going to enable a lot of peer-to-peer lending amongst the world. There's a lot of new innovative things that are going to happen. And that's not only with the Cardano blockchain, it is going to be with a lot of other blockchain systems. But Cardano is specifically bullish because of the direction that they're going. So I think it's very important to keep that in sight. Now, when you're looking at the crypto market, just to go over, because I've been asked this on Twitter, what coins are a buy right now? Now, as much as ADA, I would like to say ADA is a buy. Right now, I would hope that I would see an under $2 ADA to start buying again. But again, there's that mental barrier of seeing it above $2. So we could see it go under $2 here, but it'll probably just bounce around. I think it's been under a couple of times today. We have Polkadot, which is still at $40, so I wouldn't really consider that a good buy, but I do still think if you don't have Cardano, if you don't have Polkadot, you should still be buying these and building a position. For KSM, just to talk about KSM, we've discussed KSM before. I'm very happy where it is, and I'm expecting KSM to continue on the uptrend because traditionally this is usually what KSM does. Pending a massive Bitcoin dump, KSM should be fine to hold these levels and continue going. One coin that I think is starting to be looked at as a little undervalued and that you should probably pick up a little bit more of is probably BNB. The reason why I say that is the BSC. It's a very good chain. Yes, it's an exact copy of Ethereum, but at the end of the day, it's cheaper, it's faster, and there's a lot of things coming onto PancakeSwap. So I'd absolutely at least have a little bit of BNB. Especially at this price. Remember that just a little while ago, it was at $700, right? So I think it's a huge discount right now for BNB. One big one that I noticed was VeChain. We haven't seen a VeChain price really since the last Bitcoin capitulation down here, somewhat like this. So this is a good opportunity to enter VeChain if you're not in VeChain already. Of course, we can go down further, so still keep some cash on the sidelines because again, if Bitcoin capitulates, we could go down. But at the end of the day, I think VeChain is going to have a lot of support. So even if it does go down, I can't see it going any lower than maybe like 9 cents. So VeChain would definitely be a buy, especially if you believe in the blockchain future of our supply chain systems. So it's absolutely something to look at. So just to finish this video off, we are sitting at a total market cap of roughly $2 trillion. We've been bouncing around this all day, basically. We haven't really made up any ground. We have almost like a doji type candle. So we're not really able to decide where we're going to go. Bitcoin's still fighting at that 42,000 mark. And depending on what Bitcoin does is really going to drive the market in the near term. So you got to expect that. You got to be ready that if Bitcoin does bleed, really a lot of other projects are going to bleed too. But I would just look at that as a good opportunity to maybe have some fiat on the sidelines and be ready to buy in those times. Now, again, the market cycle doesn't have to mimic 2017. It doesn't have to mimic 2013. It can rhyme. It can do similar things. But at the end of the day, it can be fundamentally different than what we're looking at now. So again, I've made that prediction of $10 trillion entering the crypto market cap. And if you look at where we were on a pretty steady incline, almost like out of pace of 2017. So it is likely that we just cool down for a little bit and trade level until finally making a slow move up to extend our cycle. So this is also a very possible outcome. So instead of doing the previous years of going like this way or like straight up, we kind of take a longer route. So it's very possible that we go through some sideways action and slow inclines. And hopefully over time, this is what we see Bitcoin and cryptocurrency transition into as it becomes a real commodity and a real asset that we're trading amongst the world. That is the whole goal. That is crypto. That is Bitcoin. If you're here and if you're in the space, you're here for the long term and you understand exactly what you hold, and that short-term dips do not matter. All right, everyone, like, comment, subscribe, and happy hodling.